The undisputed facts is that in 2017, Emerson Tambutso Mnangagwa was fired from ZANU-PF, and he was helped by retired General Chiwenga the country to South Africa. Not only did he do so, he came back from China, and upon his arrivals, he commanded the military to remove Robert Gabriel Mugabe. He was at the center of Operation Restore Legacy. But today, Temba Mliswa is in an effort to spite at him, because we know, according to Blessed Geza, he has been paid to do so on social media, and he has been doing the job, writing long statements, as I have kept on promising today. If you want to read the whole statement, I will post it on my social media account. It's quite long. That is from Facebook, actually. I will post it on Facebook. The channel is Hloniphani Global News TV on Facebook. Search for it, and I will post the long statement. Greetings and welcome on your lovely channel, the Hloniphani Global News. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button, so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. So, in an effort to spite retired General Chiwenga, Temba Mliswa has written a long essay, saying it was Tagwirei who funded Operation Restore Legacy. I don't know how, but we will be reading this statement together by Temba Mliswa, and most probably at the end, for just 2 minutes, because it's quite long, I will actually sum it up for you. And I have already greeted people, so let me go straight to the statement. It says, Operation Restore Legacy as a product of national consensus. That's the statement of Temba Mliswa. And he writes as follows: the death of the Second Republic was a culmination of national consensus across the political divide, with Parliament the pincer point of the project. However, lately, the narrative of Operation Restore Legacy has been hijacked and framed as the heroic product of a single person who now feels entitled to be handed state power. Some of those who worked for Operation Restore Legacy have found themselves painted as targets in a clever plot to sacrifice them without due process for one's personal ambitions. So you can hear this statement is actually aimed at retired General Chiwenga. He's saying retired General Chiwenga is claiming that he is the only person who removed Emerson Tambutso Mnangagwa, according to Temba Mliswa. And who is benefiting from this statement? It is obviously, and he was a paid troll, so he's doing his job. He goes on to say, it is against this background that this piece sheds more light on the inner operations of Operation Restore Legacy, revealing the roles of other people who are being pushed away so as to unfairly redirect all the positive light on the individual of VP Chiwenga. As an abandoned army, in the years running up to 2016, the army under CDF Chiwenga had severe financial issues, to the extent of failing to provide uniforms or food for its officers. The build-up of political differences and factional fights had created a scenario where the army was literally being neglected by Mugabe. As a solution, then VP Chiwenga, commander of the Defense Forces, Chiwenga, and SP liaised with Tagwirei, after which they visited Mugabe with a proposition that he could help the army. Tagwirei funding Restore Legacy and army ties. Now, let's go. As a result, Tagwirei began to provide support to the Zimbabwe National Army, which included food and financial assistance. He became a state-recognized benefactor for the soldiers. In the run-up to Operation Restore Legacy, he provided 2 million liters of fuel to the army and this facilitated the initial movement of military personnel and arsenal. This is information that is accessible and known to many senior army personnel like Sikauge Shiri, AVM Moyo, Mashaba, Rukeche, Tafumanei Sanyatwa, and the late SP Moyo, who was the lead strategist for the operation with Shiri. I liaised with him. Some with sensitive ignorance have recoiled at this piece of information, but that doesn't change its factuality. Now it goes on to say, after his return from China, VP Chiwenga asked for another 3 million liters from Tagwirei and got it. In the absence of protocol, it got to a point where people actually engaged Tagwirei to liaise with the CTF for them. The former and the CTF became so close that Tagwirei was now recognized within the system as a benefactor for the army. The clearest indication of their relationship is how Command Agriculture, which was being led by the army, ended up incorporating Tagwirei. More on this will come. For ZANU-PF operations during the operation, Opetimpov received 1.6 million through Tino Machakaire, while war veterans led by Chinga Dube and the Women's League received 2 million from Tagwirei. The conversion of war veterans that was held at Kwanzura Stadium was fully funded by the same person. Over $1 million from Tagwirei was also spent in mobilizing towards the youths who had been organizing to march to Mugabe's Blue Roof residence to put pressure on him to resign. At least 10 to 15 million which was spent towards Operation Restore Legacy came from one person, Tagwirei. It's a staggering amount that makes the whole project a personal endeavor and explains how and why he appears to have gained so much prominence after 2017. It's unfortunate that Tagwirei has consistently refused to speak out and detail his massive exploits. Otherwise, this was an open and shut case. The details also betray the level of connection and the centrality of some people whom Chiwenga now wants to disown by projecting ignorance about them. The details of their close working relationship long before render as obtuse the microwaved argument that the army and specifically VP Chiwenga installed President Mnangagwa. For if that line of thinking is followed, it leads to us to conclude that Tagwirei was actually the real power behind Chiwenga and has more claim to the title of kingmaker. If thus faulty for the VP to argue for the presidency with an entitlement that stems from ORL, that is Operation Restore Legacy, because there are other people who did far much more. It's an unfortunate and awkward truth that without Tagwirei, the army was an immobile financial relic that couldn't have mastered anything to take part in the Operation Restore Legacy, while VP Chiwenga as CTF had the personnel and the office. It was through Tagwirei that he obtained the capacity for all that happened. One fun fact from this period is that Tagwirei was being hounded by Kasukwere, who wanted him arrested, then just as is happening today, hesitantly with power. The veneration of VP Chiwenga as the superhero of Operation Restore Legacy also lacks the factual details of what actually happened on the ground. The ZANU-PF Central Committee, which installed ED as president, actually faced opposition from him, and Obed Mpofu argued that Mugabe was supposed to be removed at Congress. Obed Mpofu actually refused to chair the meeting over these differences, resulting in Chinamasa taking over. This burns down the false perception of the superhero being pickled by his political allies. When the uprising proper began, VP Chiwenga was actually out of the country in China. He had been targeted for arrest, and Kasukwere wanted to replace him with Lieutenant General retired Douglas Nikayaramba, who was even made part of the party commissariat in preparation for this at some point. The uprising was, however, already moving on the ground with various engagements between political parties and their leaders, such as Tagwirei. The structure of the Operation Restore Legacy had ED at the top, constantly being engaged for directions which were related by Tagwirei to other organizers and strategists who included SP Moyoshiri and Chiwenga. It's a fallacy contrived by those with political ambitions that ED was merely hiding, waiting to be saved. He was the lead thinker and organizer of the whole thing, which explains why he was able to declare it in a public letter that I will be back in 2 weeks to lead the country. Chiwenga, who had been in China, was served at the airport through the actions of Sanyato, who was on the ground in charge of presidential guard. With such details, it becomes unpalatable then to have one individual harnessing all the credit and seeking to launch other political ambitions by betraying even those who did much more. This is a sentiment that is present even within the army itself, as other senior officers freely feel unfairly treated by such actions. The army wasn't a homogeneous entity, but contained some who wavered, and so those who stood for the struggle feel frustrated when their efforts and sacrifice are not recognized. Hey, this is too long. Okay, I'm almost there. let me recognize. I say all this not to defend or attack anyone, but to show the truth and legitimize my call for a different approach to both the political issues and the corruption problem, but attacking Chiwenga. The corruption problem, what the country is facing in relation to the corruption, is of such grand scale that it requires an institution of parliament's level to investigate and interrogate it. No one individual can ever lead it, because most of them are corrupt and compromised. This is where I have differed with most of you who are infatuated with superheroes. Your weaknesses for main characters instead of persuading, persuasion for strong institutions is how the national agenda remains secondary. It's an approach that will never work, because only one's rival will be targeted by the superhero while the rest survive. Thus, while I support Chiwenga's anti-corruption efforts, I have declared that neither can anyone else be allowed the free rein to play judge and jury by convicting others without due process. Instead, let's have a systematic approach that incorporates institutions such as Parliament, ZAC, etc. to lead these efforts. This ensures they are legitimate, professional, and legally binding. Parliament of Zimbabwe should exercise its oversight on these corruption issues so that we can appear before it to present. What we should be having is the equivalent of South Africa's Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference, and corruption in the criminal justice system, informally known as the Madlanga Commission, not thinly veiled political witch hunts aimed primarily at knocking out only those standing in one's political path. As we speak, the ZANU-PF conference is underway, and a huge part of the bill is being funded by the same Tagwirei. A sincere leader would have spoken out against this and even refused that kind of help, but alas no, they are attending. Same with Agenda 2030. VP Chiwenga was part of the party meetings, Bulawayo conference, cabinet, etc., where discussions were done, and he never thought to object until it was a party resolution compelling everyone to support it. Now he has created a scenario where innocent individuals are supposed to feel guilty for supporting a legitimate party position, which he failed to block in its infancy. This is the essence of bringing the party into disrepute, because he abandoned the internal channels and opportunities and has inflamed the case into a public spectacle. It's apparent that as a politician, the VP could do with some advisors who assist him, as currently it appears some people are misleading him. He remains a variable military hero, but his political craftsmanship requires better support. As the song Musangano Wakasimba Kumasel calls, there is a rallying need for the VP to craft a political base from the ground up, especially in his native Mashonaland East province, if he is to become a political powerhouse. As it is, he subsists mainly on his past as a military leader, but as a politician lacks enough capital. I told you, Guti, Hakuna Mutswene. I thank all those who continue to extend their support, and to those praying for me. The time has come to speak the truth. Let me just take 5 people who responded to Temba Mliswa, and I will sum up in 2 minutes, because I can't only do it alone. I'm sure someone says, Sapu, let's be honest. Hey, it's very long. You have got no values left. You are selling a fake story on the wrong day. Even Comrade Mutwangwa himself said it clearly. We know our heroes, and never once did he mention Tagwirei as one of them. Yet here you are trying to downplay Chiwenga, the very face of Operation Restore Lakers. Yes, the man has his flaws, but disrespecting his roles shows nothing but bias. The truth is, when Zimbabweans choose to respect someone, it's not by accident. It's because that person earned it through consistency and courage. Chiwenga's respect didn't come from propaganda. It came from his stance against corruption and his fearless words. Whatever story you are pushing here, remember, it's already working against you and your handlers. You are playing a dangerous gamble, my guy, and you have already long before the game even started. The good thing about 2017 is another person. We were all in Zim. We saw what happened. Geza and Chris got their versions of all Operation Restore Lakers. I think that's what he was trying to say. Now, yours, as if we were not there. If it had failed, some were going to be arrested for treason. Therefore, we give credit to those who were on the forefront. Someone says, you are strengthening the point made by the VP that most of Tagwirei's money is ZANU-PF. That's why whoever is in power can ask for his assistance without blinking. That includes the army. Anyway, tsananai ikoko to tangira mape. Anyway, so in simple terms, Temba Mliswa has his own version. He is a politician. You know, if same applies to me, I'm a politician. I can craft my own narrative, and when reading it, it will appear as the truth. So, in simple terms, what Temba Mliswa has been doing, that is why it taken him long time, days to actually, you would think that he was researching. There is no research that was done. There is absolutely no even statistics to substantiate or scholars that were caught. I mean, he was trying to put this version. It's a version of Temba Mliswa with a lot of holes. By the way, the more you read it, it gives more credibility to retired General Chiwenga. What I will do, I will post that version on the channel on Facebook. Please search for Hloniphani Global News TV on Facebook. I'll post the whole of this statement that I was putting on record. Let me love and leave you. Let's meet on the other side of the live broadcast as I give you